Today we will be deriving the law of sines. Now we know that for any triangle, you can use the law of sines, where if I've got A, B, and C, then I can use the law of sines to solve for any variation of the sides or angles. So across from angle A is side A, across from angle B is side B, and across from angle C is side C. So in order to derive this formula, we're going to have to use right triangles and use SOHCAHTOA to come up with this formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the altitude of this triangle. And the altitude goes straight down from a vertex to its side across from it. It does not necessarily cut that side C in half. It just makes a right angle with side C. So I'm going to call that height 1, because later I'm going to draw a second altitude from a different vertex, and we're going to call that height 2. So in order to solve for height 2, I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA from angle A and from angle B. So if I'm looking just at this triangle on the left, that right triangle right there, in order to solve for height 1, I can relate height 1 with side B. So sine of A is opposite over hypotenuse, which is height 1 over B. And I'm going to solve for height 1. So that would be B times sine of A. And I'm going to now use angle B and do the same process. So if I do sine B, then I'm dealing with this triangle on the right. That's also opposite over hypotenuse, but in this case it's h1 over A. And I'm going to solve for h1. So that'll be A sine B. Now since both of these formulas equal h1, then I can set them equal to each other. So now I can say B sine A equals A sine B. And the last thing I want to do is get all the A stuff to one side and all the B stuff to the other side. So what I'm going to do is divide by A on both sides. So that'll cancel these. And I'm also going to divide by B on both sides, because that will cancel these on the left. So now what I'm left with is sine A over A equals sine B over B. And that is 2/3 of our law of sines. So I need to relate somehow to side C and sine B. So now I'm going to draw a second altitude in my triangle. So first I'm going to erase some of the stuff I drew in here and use this same triangle. So let me make this better again. I'm going to draw an altitude from A to A. So just pretend that's a right angle there. So let's call this height 2. So now I have this triangle on the top, and I'm going to use law of sines with that. Now sine C kind of looks like a right angle, but it's not. The right angle is down there on side A, so don't get confused by that. So I can take the sine of angle C, and that's going to be opposite over hypotenuse, which is h2 over B, and I can solve for h2. So B sine C. And then I can also go from angle B, that's going to be this triangle down here, and use SOHCAHTOA. Sine B is opposite over hypotenuse for that blue triangle, and I can solve for H. So I get C sine B. Again, since both of these equal h2, I can set these B sine C and C sine B equal to each other. So B sine C equals C sine B. And I'm going to get all the C's to one side and all the B's to one side. So on the left side, I'm going to divide both sides by B, and that'll cancel the B's on the left. I'm also going to divide by C on both sides, and that will cancel the c's on the right. So now I have sine c over c equals sine b over b. So that's another 2/3. And now for the final touch of this derivation. Since both of these equations have sine b, then we can use, if you remember from your geometry proofs, using the transitive property of equality, then you can say sine A over A equals sine B over B equals sine C over C, and we are done. So remember, the transitive property is if over here I've got sine A equals sine B, and then sine B equals sine C, then the sine B's you don't have to write twice. You can just write them one time. And that is why we can use the law of sines for any triangle. And remember, law of sines is most useful when it is angle, side, angle, 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 side, or in our next video, sometimes side, side, angle. And you'll see when we can use side, side, angle in my next video.